last one I was on, I got a tiny piece on what you and Moff were talking about. That with, for example, tattoos being
Red flag.
part of it, with women being related to trauma. So I wanted to hear more on what your correlation is to that. It's something new to me. I never heard that before. I'm very curious.
Hmm.
I don't have any tattoos, so I was curious about the trauma part connected to them.
It's it's just correlated. Sorry, whenever I have in my personal experience, and whenever I've dealt with guys in their personal experience, women that have covered themselves with tattoos like a sticker book, they just tattoo random shit like all over their body. Um, it- it's like they're representations of something, and it's I mentioned this. I don't know if it was on the last show that you were on or one prior or after that, but I was talking to this guy on his podcast, Elliot Hulse. Some of you guys watching are probably familiar with his name. And one of the things that he said that also was a bit of a punch to the gut beyond whatever he talked about with tattoos, with it being associated with some form of trauma that is accumulated, is you actually have to sit still in a chair for hours at a time while a man penetrates your body, doing these little dots, putting these, coloring in and all this sort of stuff. And I've never met a woman covered in tattoos that doesn't have trauma, like excessive piercings that doesn't have trauma, like, the rings all the way down the ears and the septums and the nipples and all the other body parts, sort of thing. There's always a direct correlation. It's not artwork. It's not anything that I've seen, beyond that. I think that's one of the points that Moff made too, when it was brought up as well in the past, is that, he had like, I'll let you speak for yourself, but I mean, you made the point that you had a thing for, women with ink at one point. You started to realize dating them that they all have baggage, right? Like they all have this unnecessary baggage. So it's one of the items that ended up on my red flag list. Number 10 was tattoos and excessive piercing. I think minimalist, like versions of it, like, you want to tattoo your, your favorite dog's name because he went too quickly, or a paw or something like that, like no big deal, um, something with a small genuine gesture. But when it's excessive, and like, I've had women on the show, like I had this one gal on once, she was in her 50s and she was tattooed from head to toe. She had tattoos on her face, and her face was the only part of her body that she had the tattoos removed from. I think lasered off or bleached, or maybe she had makeup on. I can't remember what she said, but it was her face that looked like the only clear part. But she had tattoos from head to toe, and she's like, "I've been disqualified for jobs. I've been disqualified by men. I've not been taken seriously. I've been treated differently in medical facilities." And she had trauma. Like she had a tremendous amount of trauma, because of the tattoo. So when I tell guys, like this is a red flag, it's just like, look, guys, keep your life simple. If you can avoid red flags and not invite women into your life personally, that have a lot of red flags, and your life will be better for it. And it's not like you can't date a gal with tattoos. You can. It's just, if she's got a whole bunch of them, chances are you're probably going to deal with some bullshit in your life.
Mhm.
So
I
that's
think
all
that's
that
what I'm
was.
seeing. Yeah, that's what I think I'm seeing kind of also in the dating world. Hearing it from the women's sides is just kind of, I'm seeing what's kind of what they're doing with trauma, for example. Like I said, I've got mine, but I made a very conscious decision, kind of like putting the bag down, like you said,
Yeah.
and I figured out how to do that for myself.
One of the
Um,
things that I've noticed, and I've mentioned this to a few guys now, is that women will start tattooing like sayings and phrases on their body, right? Like they'll do it all the way down their arm in some, like scriptic sort of thing, or in a different language or something like that. It has some meaning to some phrase that they want to memorize, or, something like that. It's like, you can write that shit on a whiteboard. You can get a poster, like the Holste manifesto was one of the big ones that was, done back in the day. But when they start writing this shit all over their body, it's like, I remember when my daughter was like little, she would write stuff on a piece of paper and draw, and half the time she was drawing on her hand and her body, and like that's what it reminds me of, right?
mhm. It's interesting too, where it kind of the tattoo, if it's connected to some kind of baggage, then I'm curious as to why does that person want a constant reminder of that. It seems like the constant reminder would hold him back. My opinion, though.
Yeah. Well, what I tell people is, we all have wounds, but make your wounds your work, right? You don't have to write them on your body.
Well, my best friend lost her husband in February. He was epileptic and seizure free for 11 years and passed away unexpectedly at work. So she got a tattoo in memorial of him. And then 3 months after he passed away, her 2-year-old daughter with Down syndrome was diagnosed with leukemia. So she got a tattoo in remembrance of both of them, and she's in full remission now. So what you're saying about tattoos in women, I think you should really look into it a little more. I think a lot of girls start them because it is something sentimental. It is something they want to look at every day, especially someone that passes away. So maybe instead of just traumas, yes, that is a trauma, but she also lost her husband of 13 years.
Got it. And, that's a noble thing to do. But at the same time, if I met her and we were dating and she had some memento of her ex-husband tattooed on her body, to me, if I was dating multiple women simultaneously in a non-monogamous fashion, I was letting the cream rise to the top because I was looking for a long-term relationship. Yeah. I would probably disqualify the lady with the tattoo of her husband's name, date of birth, date of death on her body. So
it was the mountains and the sea, and then it was the year date under it, and that was the first tattoo she's ever got. And
every time I see her naked, then I would be thinking, well, she's tattooed this man, like she's basically alpha widowed by this guy. Like this guy holds a place in her heart.
Well, it's her husband and father of her children, so I think
I understand, but if you're going to move on in life and you want to find another man, tattooing something to do with another man on your body is not the best idea.
My husband and I kind of had that discussion because his disability is it's something he could either still live with another 20, 30 years, or he could die tomorrow. And with him, we had the discussion where he says if that really does happen, he told me he wants me to get back out there and find someone and to be happy with. And my rebuttal back to him was, well, that's going to be pretty damn tough since he's the best out there. But that was a conversation that we ended up having.
What if you don't get to have that conversation and it happens suddenly? Wouldn't you?
Well, so no, that's the point, is that we wanted to have that conversation.
I know, but you didn't answer my question. This happens
suddenly. What was the question?
That she was married and that they didn't have the opportunity to discuss tattoos if he passed away because it was unexpected. He was 38 years old and he was very healthy. So it happened. It wasn't pre-planned. He didn't have any pre-diagnosis. It happened because he was seizure free and did not take his medicine and died at work. And it was a freak accident. So she did not get that opportunity with her husband, which I'm glad that you did, but she also had 2 children with him. So I think her putting him on a part of her body is special to her. And I don't think that should be a red flag for anyone. I think that's a sign of a good person.
But it is.
And
I mean,
it's
all about choices.
You can't tell a man not to disqualify a woman because of what she's done, right? Like it is what it is. Right. I mean, she's decided to take that step and create that memory for herself, and she scarred her body with it. And I, as a guy, if I'm dating and I were to come across a woman like that, that would, to me, put her lower down the totem pole. If there's better women out there that don't have that baggage, like that tattoo is basically one of the bricks with the Sharpie written with the guilt, or it could be maybe she's resentful because he left too early. Maybe she's guilty because she didn't, remind him to take his medicine. I don't know. Right. But that's what that image represents to a guy that sees it for what it is. Right. Now, there's lots of guys out there that won't even care. They'll just look at it and be like, oh, that's nice. Right. But I know what that means. And that tells me that I'm dealing with an alpha widow that holds a place in her heart for this guy. And that, to me, is, well, if I'm dating and I've got a gal that doesn't have that baggage, I'm going to pick the gal that doesn't have that baggage over the one with the baggage, because I don't want to be dealing with that shit for the rest of my life. I don't want to look at a tattoo on her body, which is now mine, reminding me of some guy that she was with. Surely
you're never going to take that man's place. I mean, it's going to be a constant reminder that there is a guy that's always going to be above you. and now he exists in martyrdom essentially. And it's no man wants to be in a relationship where he isn't the first man in her life, and ideally the only man in her life. But even the memory that she holds on to is enough to make him second place.
It's not to say that she's not worthy of love. It's not to say that she's not worthy of finding a guy. There's lots of guys out there that will be with a woman like that. I'm just not one of them. And I'm telling guys why I'm not one of them and why they should look at it in the same light.
And also, I don't think we need to. We don't need to muddy the waters with a tattoo here or there, like one or two tattoos. Versus, I think the point that we brought up is that excessive. One of the things that I've seen in my own dating life is the core. It's in every situation. It's a direct correlation to the more tattoos she has, the more baggage and trauma she carries. And there's something about the thrill or putting yourself through self-mutilation or pain that is attractive to these people, because and if you understand the human body just at a biological sense, we have antibodies that come in to fight infection, and we have a feeling that comes along with that. So there's a little bit of euphoria that comes along.
Let me use a well-known example that's in the media right now. So Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith. She's now going out there publicly saying we've been separated since 2016, when only a year or two ago he marched up on stage and struck another man because he made a joke about what he thought was his wife at the time. Jada Pinkett Smith banged her son's best friend and is constantly talking today about how she's been alpha widowed by Tupac. Tupac was my soulmate, right? So this is where Will Smith is now in a place of pain, because he accepted this woman into his life. So my advice to guys from the male perspective is, don't do that. Become the best version of yourself, level yourself up, be a high value guy, have better options, and make better choices, right? People are free to do whatever they want. I'm a total libertarian. You want to cut off your dick, you want to become a man, you want to do it. Fine. I don't care. Tattoo your body 1,000 times. It doesn't matter to me. But don't expect me to invite you into my life and introduce you to my family if you've done stuff like that. Don't expect me to take you seriously as a woman or as a romantic partner if you have a tattoo with your late husband's name or a mountain or a bird or something that represents that relationship, right? That's how unplugged guys think when they look at these things. We don't overlook mistakes in people's lives. Just like, women don't overlook the guy that isn't financially sorted out when he asks you to pay for his kid's childcare. You're like, fuck that guy.
That's not the same at all.
It is the same.
Why not?
It's not the same. A woman tattooing her late husband's. No, it's not.
You look at the guy as an incompetent douche because he's asking you to pay for his kid's childcare. I look at the woman as an incompetent moron for tattooing another guy's memento on her body when she expects me to accept her into my life. It's not the same thing, you're right, but it's the same level of bullshit. It's just a level of bullshit that men shouldn't tolerate, just like you won't tolerate paying for a guy's kid. I really hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full-length podcast, you can find that over here, that clip's from. If you're newer to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe over here. And pinned down below in the top comment, you'll find a bunch of useful links to my website, my supplement line, books, and a bunch of other stuff. Have an amazing day. Peace out.